The PHNX Cardinals podcast, pregame edition, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. Johnny Venerable, the playmaker, Brittan Golden, Damon, Dawg, producer extraordinaire behind the mic, Brack live from State Farm Stadium in just a few minutes. Welcome, everybody. Home opener today is the Arizona Cardinals host the LA Rams. This episode is presented by our friends at Bet365. Download the Bet365 app today. Use the bonus code PHNX365 when you sign up. Choose your offer. Find out why it's never ordinary with our friends at Bet365. And speaking of never ordinary, check out Sanderson Ford here in the greater Phoenix area, giving you big playoffs like big 0% financing on the new 2024 F-150 Escape, Edge, Explorer, and Expeditions. We got a big pregame show for you. Welcome everybody in the chat. Brittan Golden, just tell me off air. Big game for MHJ. You're calling it right now?
I called. I got him for a touchdown today, so I need you to make me some money, Marvin.
That's right. We're all counting on MHJ. I got the K1 jersey. I'm not going full-blown fanboy jersey today, but I am manifesting a big day for Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. The Arizona Cardinals kick off in roughly 25 minutes from State Farm Stadium. Bunch of action in the early games. Cardinals, knock on wood, I don't want to jinx it, with a dub today, could maybe sort of be sitting in first place. A lot to go down, though, here. Welcome, everybody in the chat. Drop a like on this video. We're going to break down our favorite bets of the day. We're going to talk about the inactives, the keys to the game, and, of course, final predictions ahead of kickoff. First and foremost, though, let's get to those inactives if we could. Damon, Dawg, no real surprises, Brittan. Arizona Cardinals, their most notable players that are out remain on injured reserve. Of course, Jonah Williams, the right tackle, going on IR. Darius Robinson's got 2 more games after this week until he can return. No real surprises, though, for inactives outside of, the mentioned IR candidates.
I mean, I'm not going to say surprised, but just with how non-existent the pass rush was last week, why not throw a Lucetta in there and see what he can get out of it, see if you can get a boost or anything. But, I mean, not saying it would be anything crazy that it would change anything, but, I mean, as bad as it looked last week, I don't know if it can get any worse. But
yeah, I'll give some love to peeps in the chat. I mean, Dante Stills being inactive, that's a little bit of surprise. I guess he was, I at least saw him pursuing Josh Allen last week. It was a tough game for Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones in the debut. But yeah, Dante Stills, who was undoubtedly your most consistent defensive tackle, inactive for this game. So the Arizona Cardinals mixing and matching. You've got LJ Collier at that position. I just mentioned the 2 vets. What can the Cardinals do to pressure Matthew Stafford? They did, it looks like, bring up the pass rusher that they signed off of waivers. Justin, and his last name escapes me. Brack's got it on his Twitter account. He went up from the practice squad to the active roster this week, elevating also Jackson Barton from the practice squad for tackle depth. So maybe you have to sacrifice a little bit defensively because you have no Jonah Williams. Of course, Kelvin Beachum starting at right tackle. Again, big ups to everybody in the chat. Like this video as the super chats come in. We're going to have Damon, Dawg read those here in just a little bit. But first, Brittan Golden, let's dive into our Birdgang Blitz keys to the game. We're going to start things off, as I just mentioned, the pressure point for the Arizona Cardinals. Where's the pressure coming from for the Arizona Cardinals after what was a quiet debut for Nick Rallis' defense? Statistically, the worst pressure defense in the NFL after week 1. What needs to change here in week 2?
I think the main thing is just finding ways. You got to win your one-on-one battles on the outside, inside as well. Like your defensive tackles, they've got to win one-on-ones. Your ends, your outside backers, they've got to win their one-on-ones. You've got to find a way to pressure Matt Stafford. If you do not put pressure on Matt Stafford, he is going to throw for 400 yards and God knows how many touchdowns. He's been doing it for a long time in this league. We saw it last week in that game. So I mean, it's pressure, whether you got to send some linebackers and do some blitzes, some dog blitzes, whatever with those 2 middle linebackers, find ways. You just got to find ways to make him uncomfortable back there.
Yeah, pressure point was Zaven Collins, who I thought played about as well as he could play in the opener last week, was robbed of a sack. Not much to do as it relates to Dennis Gardeck. Of course, Victor Dumakaji, the defensive tackle group. Somehow, some way, you have to find a way to get home against Matthew Stafford in this banged up LA Rams offense, which is missing 2 starting offensive linemen. Of course, no Puka Nacua. I mean, yes, Detroit got after the Rams last week, but Detroit, we've seen with Aiden Hutchinson's just on a completely different planet than the Cardinals are from a pass rush perspective. I wonder, is this kind of the last week, the last-ditch effort, in my opinion, for this group as currently constructed? No Hassan Reddick again for the Jets today. That is no closer to resolution. If the Cardinals come out, win or lose, and no show from a pass rush perspective, I mean, what do you do at that point if you're Monty Ossenford and Jonathan Gannon?
I mean, it's tough to say because you're in week 2 of the seasons, and there's not a lot of guys that are available, unless it's via trade. So, and you're going to have to get rid of somebody that you really probably don't want to get rid of to acquire a guy like Hassan Reddick or somebody like that. So, I mean, at this point, you kind of made your bed with what you did in the offseason and, not bringing in a premier pass rusher to have. So, I mean, you've kind of got to just roll with the punches until, it starts getting closer to trade deadline time.
We're trading up for Bo Brock here live from State Farm Stadium as we jump into point number 2 here on the Birdgang Blitz, which, of course, Bo, is 1 + 18 = 6. Will that come to fruition? You can't take a pulse, unfortunately, of the number 18 jerseys on display at State Farm Stadium because you can't purchase them. But how do you feel, in all seriousness, with the connection? You told me off air, Friday's practice, Cardinals look sharp, specifically K1 and MHJ.
Yeah, they looked sharp, too, in the pregame warm-ups. We saw a lot of zip on Kyler Murray's throws. He looked like he was locked in, and we saw him on this, just as far as, routes versus air type, warm-up situations, they look good. But they've looked good the entire preseason training camp and up to the season debut last week where it kind of was a dud, right? So getting those game reps, that was what was emphasized throughout the week. For Marv, and you've got another opportunity at that, and you're hoping that they're going to kind of find that rapport early on.
Well, do you feel like at this point with Kyler Murray and his performance in week 1 that it was undersold? Of course, we saw Tua have a tough time against Buffalo. Like, say what you want about the Rams defense. Like, it can be exposed. Is this a prime game for Kyler Murray to say, you know what, defense be damned, I'm going to go out there and be the franchise quarterback this team needs me to be?
Yeah, I think it's more conducive than what you faced as far as with Buffalo. And we heard it from Mina Kimes, our NFL analyst from ESPN, that maybe they're a little bit more vulnerable on the outside to kind of work the perimeter here than Buffalo, whose whole game plan is keep everything in front and in the middle of the field. So we'll see. I think there's an opportunity there to get Marvin Harrison back on track. But with more reps as far as in-game, I think that's only going to see improvements. Now, I think the big decider here, is it going to be incremental? Are we going to see 3 targets to 5 targets from 1 catch to 3 catches? Or are we going to see something more like, catching 6 to 7 targets for close to 100 yards? That's really what I think the biggest question mark is for Marv. But you should expect, there's only one direction to go, guys. And I think that it's up.
Brittan, we saw in the early slate, like Malik Neighbors, the Giants forcing him the football. And the difference we've said from day one with the Cardinals, they have other options. Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, Trey McBride. But we also know that, like, this team was picking 4th for a reason, and you took a playmaker 4th overall. At what point do you just have to rip the Band-Aid off and force number 18 the football?
I think you're taking a real loss today if Marvin Harrison doesn't have 8 to 10 targets today. I think you have to go after it. Whether it's forced or not, I don't want you to force things that aren't there, obviously. But I think you have to find ways to target him and target him early in this game, because that's only going to help you out on the other side. All that's going to do is free up a Michael Wilson with one-on-one coverage. One-on-one coverage. Going to put Greg Dortch in one-on-one coverage. You're going to get Trey McBride in one-on-one coverage. You've got to find ways to just force feed Marvin Harrison early and have people start saying, hey, we got to walk this safety over. We got to walk this backer over. We got to do something to slow him down on the outside, which then in turn, it just opens the field up for everything else. It opens your run game up. Now you got guys, you're no longer 8 men in that box. Now they're dropping guys out. Now you got 6, 7 guys in coverage, and you can hand the ball up to them. Now James Conner's ripping off 5 to 7 yards per carry. It opens up your entire game. So, I mean, like I said, I think you're taking a loss today if he doesn't have 8 to 10 targets.
Yeah, and the Cardinals need to live and die with number 18 offensively. Are they just straight up dead defensively? We've talked about it ad nauseum all week. Who's going to stop Matthew Stafford? And in turn now, with no Puka Nacua, who is going to shut the cupboard here on Cooper Kupp for the Arizona Cardinals? Max Melton's active. Sean Murphy-Bunting had an up-and-down game 1. I mean, like, is it as simple as you just have to maul number 10 out there if you're JG's defense? Like, I heard the excuses last week. Well, they didn't want to get beat by Marv, so they shadowed the safety. That was the Buffalo Bills. Like, what do the Cardinals need to do to shut down really the most prolific and only option in the passing game for the LA Rams today at State Farm Stadium?
Yeah, I think a guy, in the case of Kupp, he's inevitable, right? I mean, they've done a good job. And look, they've got the live reps to build off of course, Triple Crown winner. I'm not saying anything that nobody knows. It's like, you're not going to stop him, but can you kind of slow him down a little bit in the sense of relative to Cooper Kupp? But then you look at, can you slow down the run game? That's going to be important. Like, if Kupp has a banner day like what we're used to seeing, yeah, like, okay, let him eat, but can you slow down the rest of the Rams offense, where they really did just kind of impose their will on the Cardinals last season, especially in the second halves, really running the football? I think that would serve the Cardinals very well, and then we'll see what that secondary can do to neutralize, to a sense, a guy like Cooper Kupp. I think it's almost naive to think that you can completely take him out of the game plan, but also without no Puka, maybe you can focus and try to really work your defensive backs, help them out like Buffalo did against Marv. But, man, this guy's got the full bag of tricks and is going to be able to kind of have him on full display here with Matthew Stafford here in week 2.
Brittan, is this cliche to say, like, hey, we have a defensive head coach, figure it out defensively? Or is it simply the Cardinals, just for whatever reason, year 2 of this rebuild, as my co-host likes to say, just do not have the horses, the personnel to keep up? Because I look at what New England's doing, with Jacoby Brissett as a defensive head coach, some of these other teams that everybody assumes are going to be terrible, and they're putting up competitive outings. They're not giving up 30-plus points per game. At what point, hook or by crook, doesn't matter what the personnel is, do you have to get stops as a head coach and a defensive coordinator?
No, I think it's a little bit of both. You've got to find ways. Yeah, like you said, you have a defensive-minded head coach. You got to find ways to plug and play the guys that you have and make plays. You got to find ways to stop, get off the field defensively, and do that. At the same time, we talked about earlier, you made your bed with these guys, right? You didn't go out and you didn't get anybody. So guys have to step up. You have to win your one-on-one battles. Like Bo said, you're not going to be able to take Kupp completely out of this game.
Yeah.
It's not possible. Cooper Kupp is a top 3 receiver, top 5 receiver, however you want to look at it in this league. Now, slowing him down is the main thing, right? And that starts with getting pressure on Matt Stafford and forcing him, to make the box heavy, forcing him to run the ball and stop the run. If you can't stop the run, then they're just like last season. Kyron Williams ran all over.
Yeah.
Which they didn't really have to rely on a Puka or a Cooper Kupp too much because they had 250 yards on the ground. So, slowing down Cooper Kupp's the main issue, but like Bo said, if you can't stop this run, it's going to be a long day in the building.
Yeah. Some early results here. New England is tied with Seattle and has an opportunity to win the game with just under a minute left. And it looks like San Francisco, barring a miracle, is going to take an L at Minnesota to Sam Darnold, Kevin O'Connell. So big ups there. So again, a lot more parity in the NFC West this year, assuming the Cardinals, Bo and Brittan, can throw their name in the hat of this equation here. The Cardinals, Bo, as you mentioned on the show earlier this week, have not won at home since 2014 against the LA Rams. I mean, that just a ridiculous statistic. Speaking of the home crowd, what's what's the adversity from an opposing fan base that hasn't traveled all that well in LA?
Yeah, it's minimal. It's non-existent. It's very vibey in here. It's good for the Bird Gang, the Red Sea. It should be a loud atmosphere. They're ready to roll. I think that, despite the week 1 loss, there's still a lot of excitement surrounding this team year 2 in a rebuild. And yeah, it's not like a fanatical fan base coming in, like a Chicago or New England or even a Seattle. This is LA, so they don't travel very well. They don't have a lot of transplants here in the Valley. This is going to be a dominant Cardinals crowd, which is good. You like to see that here to open up the season. So hopefully that plays to your advantage, especially on the defensive side of the football. They can get loud. I know you guys probably went over the inactives thing. No Dante Stills. Looks like Dante Stills was inactive to make way for Julian Okoro, who is a pass rusher that they signed late in training camp. Maybe they're just looking to add another guy in the outside linebackers room to that rotation. Instead, they'll go with the 5-man rotation on the interior of the defensive line versus the Rams.
Interesting mixing and matching here for the Arizona Cardinals. Is it an impact or is it much to do about nothing for a pass rush that currently ranks dead last in the NFL? We shall see. We shall see from our friends at Gila River Resorts and Casinos Wild Horse Pass. If you weren't at our watch party last week, capacity crowd, capacity vibes, had a great time mixing it up despite the loss at Arizona's largest sportsbook casino, Wild Horse Pass, among many other locations, 4,500 slots, live table games. Check it all out right now with our friends at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Achieve legendary status. Check out the A. Shula Steakhouse. We go and we have an opportunity to connect with the people there, and it's just the best possible time, even when the Cardinals don't get the dub. I mean, it's just like, you know what? I'm here. I'm having a great time. TVs everywhere. Great food. Love the nachos. Love the wings. Love the vibes with our friends at Gila River Resorts. We're going to be back there for, I believe, week 5 at San Francisco. But in the meantime, check them out. Playatgila.com. We're going to be hosting events there, from Cards watch parties, Suns watch parties, which are going to be happening early and often starting in October. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Playatgila.com for more information. And, Bo, I mentioned it in the opener. We're feeling great about Play Gila, and we're feeling good about Bet365. We're also feeling good about our friends at Sanderson Ford.
We love our friends over at Sanderson Ford. They're no hassle, no pressure, no nonsense sales approach. I mean, it's elite. I mean, just go out there and check out America's largest Ford dealership, 65 glorious acres out there in the West Valley with the greatest inventory of Ford vehicles that you're going to want to at least go out and check it out. Talk to our friend Ron down there. Talk to their friendly sales staff. They're not going to pressure you if you're not ready to purchase, but if you're just in the exploratory part of buying a vehicle. Check out the Ford F-150 XLT. It's a gorgeous truck. Got to test drive it myself. It's unreal. It's unmatched. How about you got the Mustang? You've got some of the EVs that they've got over there that are fantastic. The Bronco, the Big Ben Bronco, so beautiful right now. Sanderson Ford, and man, are they entrenched in the community as well. They give back here to the great state of Arizona. Check out what they have to offer, like 0% financing for 36 months on Ford Credit, OAC. Check out the dealership for more details, Sanderson Ford.
We hooked you up with our friends at Sanderson Ford. We hooked you up on this pregame show last week, 60% for the year with our friends at Bet365. Let's tap that app here on a PHNX Cardinals pregame show. Picks for the pregame, brought to you by our friends at Bet365. Never ordinary. I was in the lab with my guy, Shane Diefenbach, cooking up a tasty little parlay for all of you, all player props and all Cardinal offense related to in relation to Kyler Murray that I think are going to hit early. I'm talking 3 quarters in. Kyler Murray, longest pass over under 34.5. Let me see that opening drive, baby, to 1 MHJ. Minus 115. Then we're going to double down on K1 over 250 yards passing at plus 150. That feels like stealing money right now. And then the player prop that I love the most, the big tasty plus money. How about part of the program, friend of the program, Michael Wilson, 50-plus yards receiving Brittan Golden at plus 265. He was open last week. Yeah. He's got opportunities. I'm taking the pressure off 1 MHJ. Let him get his feet wet, and I'm going to what is now the savvy vet of the group with Michael Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, and it's very possible. But it's at the same time what we talked about earlier with MHJ. It's if you can find ways to get Marvin targets early, all that's going to do is create one-on-one opportunities for Michael Wilson and the other guys. which we know they can beat one-on-one. We've seen it. We know that they're good on the outside one-on-one. It's just about getting these guys the ball. And, hopefully that's what we can do this week.
Bo, what do you think of our Bet365 parlay 3 picks of the week, my friend? Can you hear us, Bo? Maybe he can't hear us anymore. He's locked in. Look at that game face ahead of this kickoff in T-minus 7 minutes. We'll check back in with Bo throughout the day. And, of course, he will be on the post-game show. And speaking of our post-game show, I hope we're celebrating a dub for the Arizona Cardinals and for us here at PHNX Cardinals. Feels like we haven't had too many of those to celebrate.
No, it's been a while since there's been a lot of winning celebrations over here, but
I told Bo earlier this week, he's like, are you excited to watch the game from our beautiful PHNX studios with Damon and Brittan? And I think our guy Espo, new GM of PHNX Sports, is going to be joining us. And I said, I'm excited to see my friends, my PHNX brethren. I have PTSD watching games in this office. We just have not done enough winning. I've prepared too many post-game shows on this laptop, in this chair, watching losing football. That needs to end this week. I think we've got Bo Brock joining us back here momentarily as we get to the prediction time. But before we get to that, if you can't rock a number 18 jersey, how about rock the number 18 collection? Go PHNX.com, become a diehard, pick up a free PHNX piece of merch at PHNXlocker.com. Every single year you are a diehard. Shop that number 18 collection. Of course, Maserati Marv, a little bit of math. 1 + 18 = 6. And then, of course, the freshest tee that we have. I rocked it to a kid's birthday party yesterday in Maricopa. Got like 20 compliments. Everybody loves the MHJT. Get it all now, right now. PHNXlocker.com. All right, before we jump into predictions, final thoughts and more, Damon Dawg, let's get to those super chats if we could, my guy.
Yeah, let's get to them. I think we only got 2, so nothing too crazy. 2 pounds from Connor, and he says it's smelling a lot like an MHJ anytime touchdown.
Ooh, I love that.
We need
I've never needed anything more. Reezy Baby. I'm liking this too, Damon Dawg.
Yeah, Reezy Baby $2 says big game vibes. Let's freaking go. #family show.
It is.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We are a family here. We might be a disgruntled family. We might be in a regular family, but we're a family nonetheless. Let's get to our family predictions here. I'm going to start with Bo Brock, then I'm going to kick it over to Brittan Golden. Bo, you had the Cardinals winning on Friday's show. You still feel like that's the play, as our friends at Bet365 had straight up moved this game to a outright pick'em online.
That's right. That's right, and I'm going to give the Cardinals the nod with the home field advantage here. Red She's going to show up, and for the first time within the DAG era, they're going to show up with a divisional opponent and slow down Daddy McVay and the Rams for the dub.
Brittan Golden, Craig Morgan, myself, Damon and I picked the Cardinals to lose. Bo and Craig picked the Cardinals to win. You're the tiebreaker right now.
It's going to depend on this defense, which we don't like to hear. And it's going to depend on how we go, offensively and how play calling and if we get the guys. But I think this is the time because it's very much needed in this valley right now for a W. So I think right now this is the time. If you're going to make your move and you want to make a statement, this is the statement win. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals to win the game this week.
I would love to be able to sit here and tell everybody it's going to be okay. Let me rock you like a baby. Let me get your pacifier. Let's get a double-digit win until I see Daddy McVay go down at the hands of anybody, frankly. That I don't have a lot of confidence in. It was to your point. I think the Cardinals are going to get theirs offensively today. But can this defense be trusted to do anything? I think so highly of JG and Nick Rollis. I think so lowly of this defense right now. 2 minutes to go in this game. Cardinals are up by 7, 6, 3. Does anybody trust this defense to get a stop, a turnover, make Matthew Stafford uncomfortable? Like, in my opinion, I told you this before the show. I think the Cardinals either win in a blowout, like it's just the Rams are just exhausted from last week, or they lose close. Or for me, I don't know how the Cardinals win a close game with this defense right now, hanging on for dear life. I want to be wrong. I would love to eat crow, and we're going to talk about that more on our halftime and postgame show. But, Bo, fool me once, shame on me, or fool me twice, whatever it is. I've seen this team blow how many times in the second half? Washington, Commanders last year, Giants last week. I mean, like, what is it going to take for this team to close another team out in the second half? I think we lost Bo Brock one more time here.
A good performance to start to build off
I don't know if that's a good or a bad omen, Damon, that we lost Sweet Baby Bo Brock at the stadium out in Glendale. But
I don't know how you could spin it into a good thing.
That's true. Any revisions to your prediction, producer Damon?
No, I kind of feel this similarly to you. I think it's going to be a pretty close game. I think Cooper Kupp and Matt Stafford are just going to be too unstoppable for it to be a blowout in favor of the Cardinals. And ultimately, I don't trust this defense in a close one to get the job done.
I want to believe. Make me believe, JG and K1. I'll believe that we will be live at halftime following first and second quarter in Glendale. And then, of course, your definitive premier Arizona Cardinal, PHNX Cardinal post-game show. Big thanks to our friends at Bet365, Sanderson, Ford, and more. Drop a like on this video. Subscribe. Ring that notification bell when we know we go live here. For Bo Brock at State Farm Stadium, Damon, Dawg, Brittan, Golden, I'm Johnny Venerable. We'll see you at the half.
We all silly like the mayor.